What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're talking about double game week 26 team selection time. I'm going to go through my transfer plan, my captaincy, last big double game week of the season. There'll be some smaller ones along the way, but this is the last one where there's lots of teams and players all playing at once. So I'm looking forward to it. Lots of big decisions to be made. Do I get Kane? Do I activate my triple captain? How many hits do I take? I'll tell you right now, I'm eyeing up a -8, which is going to be interesting to talk about. Going to go through how I did in game week 25. Look ahead to game week 26 and then do some tinkering to show you the actual transfer plan as well. So if you enjoy it, please do give it a like. The support's been huge. Hit subscribe. We're so close to 150,000 subscribers now, which is insane. Please do hit that button if you're enjoying the content. And lastly, let's talk about OneFootball. So OneFootball back once again, sponsoring the team selection videos. Absolute legends over there. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. If you haven't already checked it out, where have you been? Been talking about this all season. Completely free. Link in the description below. Just click that. It'll take you through to the iOS store, the Android store. You can give it a download. As you can see on screen, the app looks great. You've got all your football news, your lineup news, your team news, all that stuff you need as an FPL manager. And if you like football outside of the Premier League, it's got your global kind of football stuff as well. A few stats thrown in there for good measure too. So give it a download. Support Let's Talk FPL. Link in the description below. It's completely free. Get it downloaded. Give it a go and see what you think. Let's look at game week 25. Pretty decent, to be honest. 84 points. I got a green arrow. It was around 900 and something up to 729. So it's at least a 200 place green arrow that I got, which is nice to be still triple figures at this stage of the season, because obviously the wildcard now has been and gone. It's been 8 weeks since I used that, so this definitely the hangover period of that, just trying to get through. And I'll be honest, like it's really good to be that highly ranked. I would love to finish in triple figures at the end of the season, but getting there so quickly, right, which I've never done before, it almost feels like I'm just waiting for the weeks to pass. Like I just want to get through game week 25. Hopefully I don't get a big red arrow. And it's almost the same for game week 26. Like I'm not thinking negatively, but I know a lot of people are going to have bench boost. They're going to have really good wildcard teams, if not now, in game week 31. And yes, there's massive potential in a double game week, but there's also the potential to fall behind as well. And I'll talk about that a bit more when I go through my game week 2016, because it's looking very difficult for me to have out 11 double game week players, which I will talk about. But overall, right, think of the positives. It's going well. 729th in the world, pretty decent. I'd be happy now if that would, if it was the end of the season. I think winning it's going to be difficult, but yeah, still decent. Looking at the points, right, Leeds kind of smashed it in that second game against Southampton. I did the watch along. All three players I had, Dallas, Rafinha and Bamford, all scored goals. Annoyingly, I captained the worst one, Bamford, but still, he got a return. Rafinha and Dallas chipped in, and that ended up being the green arrow. I was kind of on a bit of a small red most of the week, and it was just Dallas's goal, Rafinha's goal that just absolutely killed it towards the end of the week. So that was great. Interestingly, I know, like, you shouldn't always wish for more when a player scored 17 and 12 points. But how Dallas didn't have at least an assist before that goal, and how Rafinha only came away with 12 points, I don't know. They looked great again, and they have these games all the time where they just look decent, really, really decent, to be honest, going forward. Yes, sometimes they get battered by the big teams, but against teams like Southampton and hopefully Villa next week, they'll be looking good again. Elsewhere, of course, Man City clean sheet came in again. When doesn't it? Cancelo and Stones both played in that. I benched Martinez, played De Gea, and again, De Gea and Wan-Bissaka. I didn't play both of them. So Wan-Bissaka came off the bench for Grealish, who was injured. But conceding again to Newcastle, right? Newcastle's XG in that game was pretty poor. I don't think Man United played extremely well or anything like that. But to concede again, 1 goal against West Brom, 1 goal against Newcastle, from an FPL point of view, extremely frustrating. So 3 points for De Gea, 2 for Wan-Bissaka. In hindsight, right, I did Gundogan to Rafinha, which worked out quite well. But really, I should have got rid of Grealish, right? There was rumours about his injury. I didn't know if it was concrete enough to make the move, so I didn't. But obviously, in hindsight, that would have been a better move because I'd be 1 step ahead. I would have made exactly the same transfer in Rafinha, but I wouldn't have left myself with having to make a transfer back in this week to get Gundogan back. So, although Gundogan blanked, and obviously I would have played him, I definitely would have rather had Rafinha in for Grealish, but it is what it is. Obviously, I tried to make that last-minute Ings move. The reason I didn't do it is because I had Antonio selected and I wanted to get rid of Chris Wood instead. But interestingly, if I got Ings in, it probably would have been Antonio that I benched anyway. I guess I would have probably put him ahead of Wan-Bissaka on the bench. I would have got the points either way. But bringing in Ings was a pretty, or not bringing in Ings, was a pretty good move in the end. So 84 points, 729th overall. Really happy with that. Let's take a look at Game Week 26. So just pulling up the whole team straight away, right? We're not going through defenders, midfielders and forwards for this one because the team is a little bit of a mess, I would say. But I have got 2 free transfers. I've rolled a transfer like every week for at least the last 2, maybe even 3 game weeks. And I have 1.5 million in the bank from the transfer that I did last week. Plus, I think I already had a little bit of money left over. So this is how the team looks like right now. I'm playing a 4-5-1 because Antonio is playing away to Man City, so I don't really want to play him. Dallas obviously just got a single game week. Ben Mee's got a double, and Chris Wood's probably still injured, right? So he's on the bench. So is Davern, 5.3 million on my bench. But I just think instead of doubling up on Man United, who are playing Chelsea, although I do think that game will be tight, right? I do think that could be another 0-0. I'm playing Martinez instead, so hopefully some saves against Leeds. Even maybe a dodgy clean sheet, you never know. Although that would mean that Bamford and Rafinha have both blanked. And then Sheffield United away, hopefully there's a clean sheet there. Even whether they've got Grealish, and even though their defence is maybe not looking quite as good as it has been. Like recently, it's not as good as it had been for the rest of the season. I just think Sheffield United away is always a good bet. In the defence, right, so I've not got Gundogan. He has to come back in, I think. I would like Kevin De Bruyne, but I think when I talk about my transfer plan, it's very difficult to get him. Even if I wanted to sell Sala or Fernandes, I feel like I have to bring Harry Kane in. Like, he is top of my list for a few reasons, right? And I think I've spoken a lot about this already, so I try not to repeat myself too much. And even if I do, I'll try and get through it quickly, right? I think Burnley at home and Fulham away are not as bad as they look on paper, right? You can start talking about how Burnley defence don't concede too many, neither do Fulham. But if we're not targeting teams like this in a double, what are we targeting, right? There's no other team with almost better fixtures apart from Everton, Southampton at home, West Brom away. Man United and Liverpool both have to play Chelsea. That'll be tight. Man City, you could say because of how good they are, Wolves and West Ham is decent, but West Ham's defence has been pretty good. Not that I would back it over Man City attack. The problem with Man City is which players will play twice. So for me, not only because of the double is Harry Kane top of my list, but in Game Week 27 they play Crystal Palace at home, and they play in Game Week 29, and in Game Week 30 they play Newcastle away. I think it's Newcastle away anyway. It's definitely Newcastle, but I think it's an away game. And he could potentially be captain there as well. So he's not just for Game Week 26, he's just great for the next few weeks. And so for me, he has to come in. How he comes in, I'll talk about in a minute. I'm also not buying into the whole, he's been poor recently. Look at the games he's played. He blanked against West Ham. Okay, fair enough. He could have got some points. He blanked against Man City. Who doesn't? And then he missed Chelsea. He missed Brighton. He only played 45 minutes against Liverpool. And then before that, he scores in the previous 3 games, which I think was Sheffield United, Fulham and Leeds. Right? So yes, we prefer a team that can absolutely, like, Man City are ideal because they can easily batter teams like 3-4, 5-0. But if Spurs put 1 or 2 goals against Burnley and then 1 or 2 goals against Fulham, Harry Kane's probably going to be involved. And if Bale's in, I think Harry Kane playing through the middle while Son's playing wide and Bale's playing like kind of wide on the right is probably good for Kane as well. And he's on penalties and he's almost certainly going to play 90 minutes. So he is top of my list, right? I could captain Salah. A lot of the models that I've looked at, like the Rate My Team on Fantasy Football Scout, the transfer algorithm on Patreon as well, have got, and I think FPL Review too, has got Salah as the highest scorer. So it's interesting because no one's talking about him, but that Chelsea game just puts me off a bit. They've lost Henderson as well now. And then you look at Fernandes, again, he's playing Chelsea away, right? And you can say Fernandes can score against anyone, but go and look at the top 6 teams, the Man Cities, the Chelseas, the Arsenal's, right? The traditional top 6 teams. He hasn't scored very well in those games, and that's nothing against him, right? Most players I would bet to do worse against those top teams, right? It just makes sense. So I don't want to be relying with Fernandes on that Crystal Palace game. I know full well he could get a penalty in that Chelsea game. It could be 1-0. He gets 3 bonus points. Suddenly he's close to 10 points. And he's still got Crystal Palace to come. But I think I would just rather back Kane this week. And because of this week plus the weeks going forward, how good he's going to be, or how good I think he's going to be, I definitely want to bring him in, right? So he's coming in for Chris Wood. To fund that, Grealish has to go to Gundogan. And then Ben Mee and David De Gea are also going to leave. It's going to be easier for me to show you that in a minute. The only problem with that is I probably have to play Rafinha and Bamford. Now, if they play as well as they did against Southampton, like those two players plus Leeds as a whole, there could be double-digit hauls for both of them, but also it could be pretty tricky, right, against Aston Villa. So I'm a little bit worried because everyone else is probably going to have 10 or 11 double game week players, and in certain positions they've probably got better ones than me as well. Like if you've just wildcarded, you've probably got Calvert-Lewin, Luca Dean, maybe a Leicester defender, maybe Harvey Barnes. These are players that can hurt me, and I do think they'll be quite heavily owned. So this is one of those weeks, like I was saying just a minute ago, where I feel like I've got to try and come out of it with a green arrow, or at the very least a very, very small red arrow, because I do think a lot of people's teams will be in better condition than mine. I will be using the triple captain chip. It will be on Harry Kane for all the reasons I've just said. Elsewhere in the team, there's not really a huge amount to talk about. Antonio, I'm not against getting rid of, but as you'll see in a minute, I don't have the money to get up to Calvert-Lewin, and he plays Leeds in game week 27, so I'll just play him in there. And if Everton don't double in 28, I'll probably just keep Antonio for 29, where they play Arsenal. So I'm not too bothered about him. Dallas is staying on the bench, and like I said, David De Gea could go. I've talked before about selling Sala or Fernandes, in particular, to fund Harry Kane. The thing is, if I took Fernandes out or Salah, it doesn't matter which one, right? Let's just say Fernandes for now, and I get Gundogan back. That gives me the money to do Wood to Kane, but then I still have Grealish, who's probably going to be injured. So what do I do with him? I could get Harvey Barnes, I guess. But then I'm also still stuck with De Gea and me. So not only am I taking a -4, potentially even a -8 if I want to deal with more issues, I'm still having to do that, but I'm still left with quite a lot of deadwood on my bench in the likes of me and David De Gea. No, it's not like I'm rushing to get them out of my team, but at the same time, it would be nice to have more of my money in the first 11. With Wan-Bissaka, I think that there's a chance that Chelsea match is cagey. There could be a clean sheet, and I think Crystal Palace without Zaha feels like almost a guaranteed clean sheet, although you never know with Man United. So I'm kind of happy to keep him for now. I think between game week 27 and 29, there's a good chance that he gets transferred out. Who that's for, I'm not sure yet. Maybe a Chelsea defender, for example. Maybe a Leicester defender. But right now, he's just not a priority for me. So my key decisions this week are getting Kane in and triple captain in. What do I do if Grealish is fit? Although I don't think he's going to be. So he's probably going to go. And I think I'm going to get Gundogan back. I have considered Kevin De Bruyne. How can I get him in as well? But the thing is, if I get De Bruyne, I still want Kane. I don't just want one or the other. I want both. And the fact that Man City have a double in 27 makes De Bruyne, to me, even more popular or even more worthwhile going for. My only slight reservation is Pep played a pretty full-strength side in the Champions League. Now, he's already said he's going to have to make loads of changes because obviously they've got so many games. But I wonder if De Bruyne was rested because of that or just rested because he's not quite up to full fitness yet. And that worries me slightly. So what I want to do instead is have a slight plan or a potential plan for getting De Bruyne in for game week 27 if I need to. Perhaps as well as Gundogan and finally coming off double defence. That's something I got in the back of my mind. But for now, it's probably easy to just show you on the FPL screen exactly what I want to do and how I'm going to get Harry Kane in. Okay, so this is the team right now. You don't need to see it anymore because obviously you've just seen it while I've been talking about it for the last 7 or 8 minutes. So yeah, this is how it looks like. Captain's currently on Fernandes. That will switch to Harry Kane. I just don't see me not going for Kane at this point. I already, like a couple of weeks ago, earmarked him for this game week anyway. And I just think it's a good time to go against Fernandes. I know he's going to be heavily captain. He's going to be over 100% effective ownership. A lot of people are going to throw their triple captain on him. It's a big risk. But if there's a blank in that Chelsea game, then I feel fairly confident. But of course, Kane could blank in the first game as well, and then I might be crying instead. So we'll see what happens. But this is the transfer plan, right? So 2 free transfers, 1.5 in the bank, as I said. Let's say I got rid of Fernandes, right? So I could bring Gundogan back in. And obviously I could do Wood to Kane. Right, and this is still tempting me, by the way. So it is tricky to Kane. And that also gives me enough money to do Antonio to Calvert-Lewin. Right, which is not necessarily a bad move. It's only a -4. But not only am I getting rid of Fernandes, I'm betting against him for a -4. But I'm also betting against him when everyone else is going to probably captain him. But that does give me Gundogan, Calvert-Lewin and Kane. Then I'd have my 4 defenders with a double game week. So Wan-Bissaka, Cancelo, Stones, Ben Mee. And then Salah, Gundogan, Son, Calvert-Lewin, Kane. The problem is, at this point, I still have to play Bamford and Rafinha. So I'm taking a -4 and having to play them. I've got barely anything in the bank. I could do Bamford to Watkins, but it feels a little bit counterproductive to do that. Realistically, I want to deal with Grealish. So let's say I get Harvey Barnes in, right? But that's still then a -8. So I'm taking a -8. I'm getting rid of Fernandes. I've still got Ben Mee. So I've got money on in my defence that I'm not going to use most of the weeks. And I've got De Gea, right? And De Gea's fixtures are not fantastic, really. Man City away, don't want to play him. Blank in 29. West Ham at home could be okay. Brighton at home could be okay. But I feel like Martinez is probably worth just holding on to instead. So it's not that I need to force these players out, but it does mean I'd have to get rid of Fernandes to do it, right? And doing Fernandes to De Bruyne, it's just not an option if I want Harry Kane. I've looked at it so many different ways, right? Like if I bring this back up, you do him to De Bruyne. Bearing in mind, De Bruyne is more expensive still than Fernandes. That still gives me double defence. Like Gundogan's such good value, I wouldn't even own him. And if I wanted to own Gundogan as well, so I could get him in for Grealish, but obviously I'd then have to deal with Stones. I could go, I can't afford to go Harry Kane basically by a long shot. I don't even know why I'm looking. 2.5 million I've got to save, and I've got to get rid of Stones. So it would be Stones and David De Gea, and even then I've got to make another transfer. So it gets into like -12, -16. It's just not worth it to get De Bruyne in, right? So this is the move that I'm looking to make. This is pretty much what the move's going to be. So Chris Wood to Harry Kane. I'm sure most of you will agree that's a pretty big upgrade. Somehow, Chris Wood has remained in my team for 8 weeks and I've still got triple figures. I don't know how it's happened either. So he comes in. Grealish goes to Gundogan. It just feels like the obvious move. Like if anyone has a better move, feel free to let me know in the comments because I'm happy to be not told, but suggest other moves if I've got something wrong, because I quite easily could have. So Grealish has dropped in price. Super annoying, by the way. So he's gone down to 7.6. So I'll get Gundogan in, and then I've got to make up 1.9 million. So Salah, Fernandes, Son, Rafinha, Bamford and Antonio probably not going anywhere. So David De Gea down to goalkeeper that's 4 million or less. Now, some people are saying to go for Forster in case he gets the #1 spot at Southampton. I'm going to put a tweet out later asking Southampton fans what they think of that. My kind of understanding is I read a few articles about McCarthy that his first choice, they're thinking about giving him another contract as well. He's already on 50 grand apparently, and they're potentially looking to extend his contract at the age of 31. You don't do that if you're then going to give first place to Forster. So I don't know if it's worth spending the money when I could just get Fabry for 3.9, sorry. So that's a 4-point hit already. And then I've got to make up another 0.5. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Maybe for FPL managers, not for anyone else. So I could afford to get a Fulham defender. So this guy, Tozin, we'll call him because I'm never going to pronounce that second name. Now, I've already checked the stats. He's got a lot of shots in the box, and I feel like he's the only absolute nailed one. I asked a Fulham fan about this. Anya, who's been playing fullback position, he did say there's a slight risk of rotation, so I wouldn't risk it. Now, Fulham defence has got Crystal Palace away the first game. I feel like that's a fairly good chance at a clean sheet. Then they play Spurs. Obviously, I'm hoping for nothing there apart from maybe a goal for this guy. And then I'd bench him for the next 2. And then they play Leeds in 29. So I'm bringing in a player with a double this week and then a game in 29, right? But it would mean benching one of Rafinha or Bamford. So the question I'm asking myself is, if I own this player already, would I play him or would I play Bamford? I'd probably play the defender. So he is definitely an option, and he plays in 29, although he plays against Leeds, and therefore I'd be hoping that he blanks anyway. The other option, right, and I hope you follow. Let me know in the comments below how easy this is to follow along, because I know I'm just rambling. We've been going 5 minutes on this section alone already, but I feel like this is always the easiest way to get my thoughts out. The other way is to get in a Brighton defender. So I wouldn't play them this week, even though they've got West Brom, because they're a defender. I'd rather play Bamford. Or Rafinha, whichever one I'm currently benching. And I could get Burn, who's 4.2 million. Now, there's a couple of reasons I like this over the Fulham defender. It's not as good this week. Essentially, I'd be hoping that Bamford outscores a Fulham defender. But from then on, the fixtures are slightly better, right? Leicester and Southampton, okay, maybe not great, but they're better than what Fulham have got. And then in game week 29, the fixture is better as well. It's Newcastle at home. The other thing is he's 4.2 million. So you're taking even more money out of your defence, which I kind of like, right? One of the things I've had since game week 18 wildcard is a lot of money spread around my team. This would help out with that. It's only 0.3 million, but who knows down the line when that's going to help. So that's another option. If I bring in Burn, then I would play Martinez, Stones, Cancelo, Wan-Bissaka, all 5 of my midfielders, and then then Kane and Bamford. So I'd be benching Antonio against Man City, and I'd have to play Rafinha and Bamford. I don't like only having 9 double game week players, but I feel like it's my only option to get Kane. I don't want to get rid of Fernandes for a -8 and still have Ben Mee, still have De Gea, and maybe have got in a midfielder that I don't really want for Grealish either. I guess long-term plans really quickly. If Villa and Everton have a double in 28 and Grealish is back, then Fernandes to Grealish and one of my strikers to Calvert-Lewin just seems so obvious, because Fernandes would have West Ham then a blank. I'm even eyeing up potential moves for next week to get rid of Fernandes against Man City, because he's got Man City away, then West Ham, then a blank. He can always be brought back. I just don't really know what I would do with the money. So chances are I'm just going to hold on to him. This is my thought process. These are the transfers I'm doing. The more money that the players go up or down, it's going to hurt this. Like, if one more player goes up, like Kane or Gundogan, or one of the ones I'm taking out goes down, I'll have to go the damn Burn route. But at least this gives me a little bit of kind of wiggle room that if prices do change, I can still wait to the last minute to do the move, because I've got 0.3 to play with. Or I could just go for the Fulham defender. I haven't quite decided, but I'm pretty sure this is the transfer route I'm going to go. Let me know what you think in the comments below. There we go. That is it for this one. Harry Kane is coming in, probably for a -8, and he's going to get my triple captain chip. I don't want to save that for another game week. I don't know if there's going to be a better one, and I feel like using it this week is probably quite good. So yeah, Harry Kane coming in, -8. Let me know what you think. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and hit subscribe if you're new around here. Captaincy will be tomorrow, and we'll have a deadline stream on Saturday as well. And there's already loads of content that I've put out this week if you want to go and check that out. I guess leave me a comment below if you think there's anything I've missed, anything else you'd like a video on that I've not already covered. Obviously the game week preview was out yesterday as well if you want to go and watch that. And lastly, patreon.com/letstalkfpl. If you want to check that out, there's a link in the description below. Loads of perks and benefits over there if you want to become a Let's Talk FPL member. Would be really appreciated. And a big shout out to David G, who has signed up since the last video as well. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll be back tomorrow with a very important captaincy video ahead of Double Game Week 26, where we'll talk about the other options, because although I think Kane's really good, there's plenty of other players to talk about as well. See you then.